right, hello there everybody. I just wanted to give you guys a little demo overview of the new tuning feature in Ghostbase. Now tuning is just what we're calling voice, so when I say tuning you can kind of think of voice, but we're just going to use the word tuning around the app. So the first thing you want to do to set up your tuning is click on the sidebar tuning item here. And now, so Scott Galloway here is my client in this example. So the first thing you can do is you can pick whether you want to do custom tuning, and I recommend that. That's how you're going to get the best results. But say you're working with a client that doesn't really have some published content and you just want a quick kind of preset, you can choose between these 5 sort of presets. And these are like the 5 archetypes that Cole has kind of talked about, and I'm sure you guys know all about these. Anyways, but for this demo, let's go and make some custom tuning and train our model to output content exactly like Scott would in this situation. Again, tuning applies to each of your clients, so every one of your clients will have their model tuned slightly differently to make sure the outputs sound exactly like you want them to. So the first thing you want to do is hit create custom tuning. Now how this works is you just add some samples and then you train it. So you can either paste text, you can upload files, or you can select from your memory. So I'll go select a few from memory here. I'll grab this one here. Economy, and maybe this one here. Now, one thing that's important to note when you select these samples, if you're uploading them from your memory, pasting them, whatever, is it will also train your, it will also tune the model for how to write headlines or subject lines. So it's very important that when you actually put these samples in, try to add headings or headlines for every them, or subject lines for all of them. If possible. If it doesn't have a subject or heading or title, just don't include it. But you can see here it had the little kind of no mercy thing, so I just removed that so you get the actual title, because again, it's going to train on this, so just make sure your titles are correct in here. And sometimes when you upload like a file, it'll try to like pull the file name, so just make sure that if the file name isn't the title, make sure you go in there and set those titles to what you want. So you can see I have 3 samples here, and you can go in and edit these if you want, and I have 3 titles as well. So when I hit train here, what it's going to do, it's going to take a look at all these samples and the titles, and it's going to generate kind of this overview, which we'll look at in a second when it's done. So I recommend maybe 1 to 5 samples. Again, higher quality matters more than quantity in this situation. So make sure you put like the absolute best pieces that you want to use to tune your model. Anyway, so this will take maybe about a minute or so. So I'll just fast forward this and we'll see in a second. Alright, so here you can see it's generated a bunch of stuff on the right hand side here. So what it's done is it's kind of giving you an overview for the body content. So Scott writes confident, controversial, mildly combative, stuff like that. And again, you can go in here and add some edits if you want. If you want to tweak something, say, oh no, that's not right, or I want to add a bit more detail, you can go in, this is fully customizable. Same with the attributes and things to avoid. So attributes are things like you'll click in, so this is how Scott, we want to use voice and point of view. So he primarily writes in first person. Again, you can go and set these instructions if you want, but I think it's going to get better results if you add high quality content and train and not even worry too much about tuning these. But you can do this and you have full control of it as you want. You can always add new things for it to avoid, like if you notice it's doing something that you don't want it to do, you can just go in here and add an avoid rule. Or if you want it to do something, you can go in here and add an attribute. And you can do the same thing for headlines. So you click over to that, you can see that this is kind of how we like to write headlines when we're ghostwriting for Scott. So short, punchy noun or noun phrase headlines, stuff like that. You can also change the capitalization, so you can see it's pulled in these to be title cases, and it's included a few examples. You can add some more here, but you can always change if you want your capitalization for your subject line and headlines to be sentence case, lowercase, whatever. You can tweak all of that in here. And if you add some new samples, make sure you just hit that retrain button down here to get them included in your tuning here. All right, so let's go over and take a look at how tuning actually works. And it's all behind the scenes. That's the great thing about this. Just because we've done that, now anything I write across newsletters, LinkedIn posts, or articles will use this voice. Tweets, not yet. It's not live yet for that. It's going to come a bit later because they're so short. I'm trying to figure out the best way to kind of get the voice or the tuning stuff to work with that. So right now you just have these document formats are all working for tuning. So let's maybe talk about let's load some more ideas. All right, we'll do that. Social media's impact. right, and with this new version of the chat, you can work with it a lot. It's a lot better. Treat it like you would Claude or ChatGPT. It's infinitely better than the previous version. It's a lot quicker, so you can work with it more to shape things, ask it for different angles, work with it, and it'll do all that stuff. And then when you're ready, you can jump in to get headline options or outlines or straight into writing. But just for this example, I'm just going to right into writing the article. Actually, let's get some headline options so we can see how how tuning works with headlines. All right, so you can already see the difference here if you've used the first version, v0.1 with Ghostbase. You can see the difference in this v0.2 and how it works with tuning, right? Because before with these subject lines, you'd get like very kind of bit more sensationalist stuff, things that weren't tuned exactly to how Scott, in this case, my client, would write headlines. And you can see this is very simple to the headlines that we trained. And it's pretty cool. So let's maybe we'll go, I don't know, teenage experiment. But again, these are going to pull from your voice, so if you have different headline tuning options, you can, or different headline tuning settings, which you will, then these will obviously be headlines for your client. And again, it's asking if you want an outline or a full article. And we'll go into the article for this one. We've also rebuilt the outline tool, so it's a lot better. It's more customizable, so give that a try at some point. But again, for this example, we'll just see how tuning works with the full article. All right, so we have this starting to write here, and you can already see the difference. Again, if you've used Ghostbase, the previous version of Ghostbase, you'll immediately see the difference. It's not starting with like this sort of classic, how you'd expect like a LinkedIn thought leader or whatever to write. Again, if that's how your client writes and you use tuning, it will be more like that. But you can see it's already kind of getting more in Scott style, saying we're running the largest uncontrolled experiment on our children, stuff like that. You could see it's much more like, yeah, chasing likes your friends is digital heroin, TikTok's AI is fentanyl. Like, this is much more, if you read the kind of stuff that Scott writes, this sounds exactly like something he would write. And yeah, that's the general idea for how tuning works. And we've also added this thinking tool here. So if you click into this, you can kind of see exactly what it's thinking. And you'll see at some point, it's actually, before it goes to write, it's actually reviewing the voice POV stuff and seeing all this stuff that is how Scott wants to write, right? So plain, punchy vocabulary, strong verbs, all that stuff. So you can see it's actually getting the voice. And to show you what is Scott's voice or tuning. So you can see it's like he has access to that information. And again, anything you write, whether it's an article, newsletter, LinkedIn post, LinkedIn post, will all kind of use this voice for both the headlines or subject lines as well as the body. So that is the general just for how tuning works in Ghostbase. And I would love to get some feedback on it. Like, again, this is the first version of tuning, so if something's off, something's not right, try playing around with the tuning settings. If something's just not behaving how you would expect or you have any ideas, please let me know. Your feedback so far has been super helpful in shaping what we build, right? Like, I wasn't too sure how voice or tuning fit into all this, but it was kind of like everyone said, oh, we need this to be sounding more like our clients, so boom, we build that in here. So the feedback's super helpful. And then another thing that we really improved the last couple weeks is the chat. So it's a complete overhaul. It's significantly faster. It's going to remember things a lot better. It's going to be just way better to work with. And it feels exactly like you're talking to Claude or ChatGPT, except for it has access to your client's model and your memory and the client tuning now. So again, this is sort of still a very early access version of this. So please let me know if you have any feedback. Give this a try and just ping me in Slack after you give this a try and let me know. Thanks.